maintenance department, and they use that for storage and workshop and so forth. But that the location of that is really impeding the ability of us to kind of rework the campus and make the school work. So a major component of this is also to relocate that building, and we're proposing to locate it over on the west side of the, or I'm sorry, the east side of the existing high school, just down from the between the pool and the soccer field, back in that corner. And then the final component to the project is the replacement of the grass field, which is the game field for Greeley High School, with a turf field that would be new. It would be turf field, new lights, and fencing. So those are the four components to the project. If you go back to the master plan, you can kind of see, if you just squint your eyes, and you see how the four buildings really kind of form the four corners of the campus. And we think that's really a pretty unique situation, and it really kind of provides kind of an inner safe zone in the middle that all these students can use and recreate on. So that's the overall campus plan. If you want to switch to the blow up, so this is really what's happening with the new school. We're going to maintain the existing entrance off of Main Street. That will remain as it is. And instead of coming in and then a slight or a sharp right-hand turn around the parking for the high school, we're going to gentle that out and create kind of a corridor through there. And that allows us then to have a dedicated bus loop zone. Inside of that, there would be a dedicated drop-off zone just for pre-K, because that's the closest to the front door. And then on the right, as you come in, you turn into a parking lot. There would be staff parking in there, and then it would loop around. There would be a small service area. We're not proposing a full kitchen in this school. It'll be just a satellite kitchen. All the cooking and so forth will be done at Mabel Wilson, and they'll just shuttle things over in a van. So we don't need a full big service area associated with this school. And then in between the staff parking area and the building, there's another dedicated parking or parent drop-off pickup zone. And you'll see when Doug starts talking about the building, how they've actually created kind of a covered walkway that will provide protection for the children while they're waiting to get picked up in the afternoons. So we think the circulation here works pretty well. What we've done is, we're always conscious of trying to separate bus circulation from vehicular circulation, cars, and also pedestrians. And we think that this layout here really works pretty well to do that. We are providing connections, pedestrian connections, through the parking lot and over to the high school, because we think that there's a strong connection there. Students at the high school can come over and mentor or assist some of the teachers in the proposed new school, and vice versa. The kids from the new school can come over for activities in the Performing Arts Center. The outdoor play areas have been located in the rear so that they're separated again from cars and buses, so we provide a safe zone for them to play. We have two separate areas. The larger area on the south is for most of the kids. It'd be the K1 playground area, and then you can see that small little bump out there. That's a dedicated area just for pre-K. So we want to keep the little kiddos away from the big guys, at least for a year or so. So we've got a dedicated playground area there. It's right outside of their classroom space, and seems to work pretty well.
Pat, I'm just going to jump in for 1 second. We had some audio issues, I guess, while we were started. I wasn't aware of it on YouTube. that I was made aware of, and we stopped recording for a couple minutes.
Okay.
And now we're having a little bit of traffic with some audio, so we're going to wait until we can actually turn that off, and then have you continue presenting. So we're just going to wait a minute
Okay.
until that all
Sure.
gets fixed. But I have been told that the audio is now working on YouTube, so we did have a little bit. So we'll just stop for a minute just to make sure that gets cleared up, because I think there's some stuff going on, and then we're going to stop. We're going to continue recording.
Okay.
Dirk, I don't know if you're on. Okay, because there's some other audio coming through too. We're gonna have to turn off some mics or whatnot so we can continue. Okay.
That seems better.
Okay. Are we okay to proceed, Dirk? Okay, and we'll continue recording. So apologize we did get that message that some people weren't able to hear on YouTube. There wasn't any audio. So if you're joining us, we have started talking about the school and campus project. And tonight our presenters are Doug Breer from Stephen Blatt Architects and Pat Carroll from Pat Carroll Associates. And they're going through the campus and school design tonight with us. If you do want to join and participate in this meeting, you'll need to go to the www.msad51.org website and click on our public calendar, and there's a link there to this meeting, and that way you can participate in asking questions later in the session. But we're gonna move forward, and I understand the audio is working. So we'll turn it back to you, Pat.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just about finished here, but I did want to mention parking, and I know that everybody's always concerned about parking. With this project here, we anticipate that we will probably be adding 60 to 70 parking spaces to the campus from what currently exists. Currently, there's about 710 parking spaces on the campus, and with this project, and the reconfiguration over at Mabel Wilson, we'll be adding up to a total of about 775. So that I think is a good thing. I know that there's always kind of a shortage of parking, especially for events and so forth. I know that some of the high school students don't have dedicated parking spaces. So hopefully, ultimately, when this project is completely built, that there will be adequate parking on the site. One of the things that I did want to note, and you'll see here on the bottom left of the drawing, there's an existing detention area there now that's right outside the Performing Arts Center. That was constructed several years ago. I think it was constructed prior to the Performing Arts Center. But we're proposing, as part of the stormwater management for the campus, which we'll be looking at in totality, to actually take our stormwater from the new school and pipe it into here and create some underground chambers here. So all the stormwater that's currently in the surface now in that dry basin will actually be underground. And then we're going to pave over the top of that and add some, I think there's about 35 parking spaces that will be added in that area. So it not only kind of cleans up kind of an unsightly area. I know they've never really been able to grow grass in there, and it never really holds water. It's kind of a silly thing, but hopefully this project will actually take care of that too. The other thing, well, it's really two items, but it's one major thing is, as part of this project, there's some improvements off-site on Main Street and Tuttle Road. And as you know, currently there's traffic congestion primarily in the mornings, with people coming through town on their way into Portland. This project will create a a passing lane or a turn lane, either one or both, along this section of Main Street here. So we've been working with traffic engineers, the same traffic engineers that the town has, which is Goral Palmer, and they've determined that just by widening this road about 8 feet here within the existing right of way, that we can accommodate all the turn movements and stacking that we need in order to accommodate school entries off of Main Street. So that's a real benefit that we're excited about. The second off-site improvement is on Tuttle Road, and it's a pretty minor improvement, but it does create kind of some great pedestrian connections, and that is we're going to create we're going to install a section of sidewalk along about 2 blocks of Tuttle Road here. And that will allow these residents that are in this residential neighborhood here to come out, walk along the sidewalk, and then cross at dedicated crosswalks. And as you know, there's a couple of flashing pedestrian lights that are there now. This will lead to those so that and we're going to remove one of the existing crosswalks that's currently mid-block there. So we think that's going to result in a much safer situation for the students and anybody else that's coming and going from the school. So I think with that, I'll turn it over to Doug and he can talk about the building in particular. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Doug, I think you're muted.
There we go. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. All right, here's our bus drop-off here. Our parent drop-off is over here. Staff parking is over here. So the big arrow, that's our main entrance to the building. And we expect in the morning that everyone will enter through this vestibule. It is a secure vestibule, so you've got an outer set of doors and inner set of doors. So when during the class hours, visitors would enter after being let in or buzzed in by the front desk, and then there's a second set of doors that also would be locked, and you'd have to be buzzed to that or buzzed into the reception area. Immediately to the right is our more public use area, some of the more assembly-like uses, noisier uses. We've got music and art here, multi-purpose room here. It's about the same size as Mabel Wilson. And up here we have a cafeteria. And as Pat said, it's a satellite or warming kitchen. So not as big as a full-fledged kitchen, since most of the food will be prepared at Mabel Wilson. And then back here, we've got some mechanical rooms, electrical rooms, utility type of spaces. So back at the main entrance, these classrooms here, those are the pre-K classrooms, and they are closest to the entrance for the young kids. And we have 4 of them. And as Pat also said, they all have direct access to a playground out here. They also have shared toilet rooms between them. And up above here, there are 2 more classrooms that are labeled flex classrooms. And these are just what it sounds like. They're flexible. They could be used for a bump and enrollment, a bubble, or it could be for some other new program use that hadn't been thought of yet. So coming back to the main lobby, to the left, this is our administrative core. Front office, principal, nurses clinic, staff lounge, and this really has nice visibility and surveillance of the front entrance. So you've got a lot of eyes looking out, seeing who's coming and who's going. It's a nice security feature. And they're also at the heart of the school, and they can see people coming and going up and down the corridors. So moving on to the left, you pass a stair that goes up to the second floor, and we'll get to that in a minute. But then you get to what we call Main Street here. And off of Main Street, we have 3 classroom pods or neighborhoods. And on this floor, we've got 4 kindergarten classrooms. In between, we've got a small group room that's shared by all 4 classrooms. Going down, we've got another 3 kindergarten rooms and then another flex room here. The flex rooms are in this orangey sort of color. Then all the way down the sheet, we've got 4 more kindergarten classrooms, also with a small group room in between. And in between, and we've got some special education uses. That's in the light purple here. Down here to the right, we've got another flex classroom. And to the right here, we've got some special ed uses. I will point out that each classroom, both for kindergarten and first grade, each have individual toilet rooms accessible from within the classroom. The only group bathrooms are right here for more for public use and for assembly type of uses. So I'm going to go up to the second floor. This piece over here is actually the second floor. It sits over the first floor. If you can see, there's a red outline here. That's where the second floor sits. And upstairs, we've got first grade. So we've got a first grade pod of 4 classrooms here. We've got some flex spaces here, a couple of larger classrooms and 3 smaller rooms that have operable partitions between them that can be opened and closed depending on space needs. Moving down the sheet, we've got another 3 first grade classrooms. And all the way down, we have another 4 first grade classrooms. And again, they all share a small group room. Each pod has their own small group room. One thing we've planned ahead is expansion capability for this building. I'll go back to the first floor here. That red line here and here and here, that's the end of the 2-story part of the building. These last sets of classrooms are actually 1 story. Here, that's the roof over those classrooms. And we would build those with a concrete slab as part of the roof structure. So if the need were to arise and we needed to add classrooms, you would just take off the roof, you'd have your floor system already in place, and we would just build on top of the existing structure. And the nice thing about that is it requires really no site work, very little disruption. We've done this in the past, and it's worked out pretty well. So that's expandability. I'm going to move down to give you an idea of what the building looks like. This is an aerial view. This is the high school parking lot. That's the Performing Arts Center right about there. Down here is the entrance off of Main Street. Here's staff and visitor parking. Parent drop-off is along this edge of the building. Bus loop here. And then pre-K drop-off is right here. So it's closest to the building. And that's the main entrance. And one thing we've really made an effort is to pay attention to the scale of the building, because these are little kids. And we've tried to present a 1-story facade as much as possible, so the building is overwhelming or intimidating. And there's very little area where, excuse me, where the building is actually 2 stories high, and that you can see this end right here is one area, but most of it is just 1 story. We even wrapped the the higher gym area with a 1-story porch here, and then some support functions here. So it really gives the building a nice scale. We've wrapped the first floor mostly in red brick. And up above, we've got a lighter colored probably some kind of composite panel. You can see the pre-K class, pre-K playground there, and then the K through 1 back here. And these items sitting on top of the roof, those are mechanical penthouses. We've got air handling equipment up there. We've enclosed them so a little more aesthetically appealing that way. And then this piece here, this gabled roof, it's the only gabled form on the whole building, is actually a window wall looking into the, let me back up to the plan. This is the stairwell. There's actually a 2-story atrium right here. So that window wall would flood that atrium with light. It'd be pretty dramatic. I'm going to go down to this is a ground perspective. It's taken at eye level. And again, that's the main entrance here. We've used color to identify the main entrance. And this is this side porch. We expect at the end of the day, kids are getting picked up by their parents could wait under this porch here, especially if it's inclement weather. They'd be protected, and they wait for their caregivers to arrive and pick them up. So again, there's that double height atrium area where the stair goes up to the 2nd floor. Brick on the 1st floor. And got the bus drop off here, and then the pre-K drop off in between. And I think I've got one slide left, and this is just a detail of the turf field that Pat mentioned earlier. And it also shows the new maintenance building down here. So there's the pool, there's the turf field, existing bleachers right there. So that's it for slides. I'm sure there are questions. Pat and I are happy to answer them.
Great. Well, thank you, Doug and Pat, both of you. This is really impressive, and just seeing the renderings that were put out just a couple of days ago for the first time, being able to see what the floor plan will look like for the new building is really exciting. And just from my standpoint, just all the pieces that go into making this one campus model work for the long term in terms of expansion points that could be part of this new building, and also at Mabel I. Wilson School, the addition of 4 classrooms in order to make sure that that we are meeting those projections for the long term, and that there's not, there's not places where we would have some enrollment issues down the road. So I think just everything has been thought through, from the road going through the campus and redesigning that, and making sure this building has got enough breathing space for expansion, looking at the Wilson School, looking at more space for students to play on for a turf field, relocating the maintenance building, all of that. And just an amazing amount of work from our architects and engineers around this. Just thank you for all of that. So apologies again for those of you who are viewing on YouTube. I know everything's been working for the last few minutes. I've checked it 2 or 3 different times to make sure our audio is working. It does seem to be working. And we do have people viewing on YouTube. And I just want to remind people that are viewing, if you would like to ask a question and participate in the meeting that way, you do have to go to our website, www.msad51.org, and click on the public calendar and click on the link to this meeting, and that will bring you to the meeting where you can ask a question. So if you are wanting to ask a question and you're on an iPhone or an Android, there's dots on the bottom of your screen. If you can click on the shapes and just click on Q&A, you can go ahead and type your question. If you're on a computer and you want to ask a question, you can click on the shapes button on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, click Q&A, and then you can ask, just go ahead and ask a question, type your question in, and then I will read the questions from here. and just ask Doug and Pat to respond, whichever makes sense. So at this point, we don't have any questions yet, but I'm just going to wait a couple minutes. And I just wanted to ask both of you, in terms of, the sustainability of the campus, and looking at all the pieces that you've put together into this really comprehensive package. What are your ideas about the sustainability in terms of long-term use of this one campus model? There's so many people in the community that have a vested interest in the one campus model, which is, I think, one of the factors as to why the initial plan in North Yarmouth did not pass the voters at that time. Was that was a major factor. People really like the one campus model. They like having all of the students on one campus. And just kind of, what are your thoughts about all of the logistical pieces and how this can sustain us as a school district for the long term? Do you have any added thoughts about that? I might have not asked the question very well, but
well, I can answer just a couple of quick questions or answers about that. Clearly it's much more efficient to have, like you say, all the students and faculty on one campus. It cuts down on gas emissions and traveling back and forth between schools and so forth. I think it integrates all of the students together on the campus, and it provides a lot of opportunities for interaction between the different grades. So while there's 4 separate schools, there's really one campus. And so I think that's a really important component. As far as sustainability goes with the site, I know that for this new school, one of the things we're really looking at is porous pavers and some other kind of new techniques for handling stormwater runoff, so that we're as sustainable as possible in that regard. And I know that our civil engineer is looking at the area underneath as I mentioned before, one is underneath the new parking area by the high school, but also underneath where the staff and visitor parking is at the new school. There'll be some underground storage there, and there'll be portions of that will be porous pavement in order to collect that and not have to deal with surface runoff so much.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great, I thought it was, when I heard that initially, that that area was going to be utilized as parking. I thought that was a great idea, just to utilize an area that we're not using on the campus already, right outside the art center, and make it into something that can be used. It is not sitting there just as a storm, drainage area. So I thought that was in my mind, a brilliant use of that space. I think it's a real upgrade to the campus, and really provides that extra space. I have a couple other things that obviously have come up as question marks around the whole project. One question that came in recently was, why do we need the extra ½ acre of land? And that was an actual FAQ that we put out. And in our answer, in order to provide that expansion for the school, that was certainly a factor in needing to go under option agreement with an abutting landowner, which the board is under option agreement right now for that extra half of land to supplement the land that the voters already approved a year ago. But do you want to, Doug or Pat, do you want to speak any more to that ½ acre of land and the importance of it to this project?
Yeah, if you go back to Doug, if you could go back to the site, that's plan right there. So that ½ acre of land is pretty much that triangle where Doug's red rocket is kind of traveling right now. And we initially looked at this, and we, prior to having a survey for the Wyatt property, we had been basing in our early kind of conversations on tax maps. And what we found was, when we did our initial work on the project, we thought that the Wyatt property was a much more regular configured parcel than what it was. And when we got the actual survey for it, we found out that in fact that it's kind of an awkward shaped parcel in that if you draw that triangle through there, it really does create this kind of odd shaped, long linear piece in the back, and it just was really becoming difficult to fit the program into it. Then the other thing that happened was that there was some discussions programmatically about expansion and some other things with the school program that really began to also expand the footprint on the site.
Yeah, and I think just the foresight of the voters and the board last year in purchasing the extra acreage of land, more than 2 acres of land, 2.5 acres that the voters approved, and then adding this ½ acre along with it will really kind of ensure that long-term viability of not just the school, but the campus. And I think because it was a major factor in the last vote, was making sure this one campus model is in place. This is an important component of this plan. One other question has to do with just the offsite. We haven't really talked about this too much, but the offsite turn lanes with the Department of Transportation in the town of Cumberland. I know that both of you, Doug and Pat, and I know Steve has been very actively involved in meeting with the DOT in the town of Cumberland around Main Street and Tuttle Road, and kind of alleviating those traffic concerns with having a one campus. Is there anything else you could maybe add to that as to where we're at with that?
Well, I tried to get an update from our traffic engineer today, and I never heard back from him. But I can tell you that there has been, as you mentioned, some discussion with DOT. There is a traffic movement permit on the campus currently that was developed back when the middle school, I believe, was first built, and it's been added to and looked at over the years. Traffic engineers believe that even with this new school, we are not exceeding the threshold of that existing traffic movement permit. So we don't need to update and go back to Maine DOT for a new permit or for an amended permit. They believe that the traffic numbers are really still well within the boundaries of the initial permit. And part of that, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because really all we're doing is just shuffling kids and teachers around from school to school. The pre-K, K1 classroom space right now is in Mabel Wilson. And really what we're trying to do is free up space in Mabel Wilson Middle School to allow the schools to function correctly and get rid of the existing portables that are on the site. So the traffic really isn't going to increase much. There will be some increase, but it's still well within kind of what the DOT has projected. And so as far as the offsite improvements, they're fairly minor. And really, I know that for years, there's been issues with traffic backing up on Main Street, especially in the mornings. And both the traffic engineers and the town feel strongly that by widening, it's about 1,000-foot section of roadway here, goes from the existing campus entrance down here down to just about to where the gas station is. And if that were widened another 8 feet wide, that would allow a turn lane to form for students and teachers coming in to the main entrance to the campus. And so that really works well. We initially talked about having a turn lane on Tuttle Road too. And the traffic engineers, I think they've been out 2 or 3 times doing traffic counts on the campus this winter and spring. And based on their traffic counts, they're saying that a turn lane is not warranted on Tuttle Road.
Interesting. Yep.
So that's saving some money right there. I think we had initially we had about $1 million or so plugged into the program into the budget for that. But there is a need. There's really no sidewalks or very minimal sidewalks on the south side of Tuttle Road, and some of those residential neighborhoods in there, it would really benefit them to be able to walk out and then walk down Tuttle Road and cross at a dedicated crosswalk.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of students that bike to school, especially this time of year. There's always the crossing of Tuttle Road. There's always concerns there. So I think anything that will augment safety certainly will be good. And the internal circulation changes that are being proposed with this plan will really help with traffic within the campus, and especially around the bus area for Wilson School being moved to the other end of the building, and making the what is supposed to be the main entrance to the Wilson School, the actual main entrance, which is the one facing Tuttle Road, and kind of beefing that up as a more secure entrance. Not that it's not secure now, but making it even more safe and more visitor friendly for parents that need to come pick their child up in the middle of the day or whatnot. So even those changes, and there's part of this plan, which is a campus plan, as well as the new primary school, obviously involves money and funds for the additional 4 classrooms, but also other renovations that need to be done at the Wilson School. And this was something that, quite frankly, the board was concerned about, that we did not have in the last package that was put out, and is in this package. There's $2.5 million or $2.75 million at this point dollars worth of important renovations and upgrades to the Wilson School, in addition to those 4 classrooms. So this $53.5 million package that is being put before the voters includes a lot of important features on this campus. And I just give, both you, Steve, and Pat, kudos for putting together something that just involves so many pieces that people have said we've got to look at this and kind of get this done. So I think that comes to the end of our questions. We're getting to the end of our session here. We're wrapping this up, and didn't know if there's anything else, Doug or Pat, you wanted to mention before we signed off for the evening, as I don't see any other questions.
Yeah, Jeff, it's Doug.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that there's a really nice kind of relationship here between the pre-K 1 school and the high school. You've got this beautiful performing arts center here that can be used by these kids. And you also have potential mentoring opportunities for high school kids to come over to the school, help kids with tutoring and reading and things like that.
Yep.
So I think that's a nice benefit of the one campus model.
I do too, and I think that was a major concern too, that was not going to happen with the former plan in North Yarmouth. Was that some of that, we have the Bigs and Littles program, which we have high school students that go down to Wilson School, down to 4-5 as well, and work with students. That's a really active program that the district has had for many years now, that we've had one campus for about the last decade. And I know that those were all major concerns with not having a one campus, and being able to retain this and do this at the cost that you're proposing, that the board is proposing, with all these other pieces added in to make this a sustainable plan for the future is I think remarkable. That's my opinion looking at it. Any other last comments before I close out with a couple of last comments? So I want to thank Doug and Pat for being with us tonight. And I just want to say, if this has been recorded and obviously will be shared so that other people can watch it that weren't able to join either way. We do have our next session is our next virtual session is next Wednesday, May 1st at 6:30. Again, it will be a virtual, and it will be around the topic of the turf field. Well, there's been a lot of discussion about the turf field, and we'll be really going in depth in that session around the turf field and the project itself, and as well talking about the health pieces that have come up as question marks around the turf field, and why is the turf field a necessary component of the plan? On Monday, May 6th, again, a virtual session at 6:30. We'll talk about safety. Safety not just in the new primary school that's being proposed, but safety, we'll also generalize and talk about safety in all of our schools. And the police chief, our SROs, will be joining us for that session. And our last virtual session will be on May 16th, which is Thursday, May 16th, again at 6:30. And we'll be talking about the financing of the plan and what it will cost homeowners. What can you anticipate? We'll have all of that detailed information during that session and provide that for you. There's also a number of in-person events that the Community Engagement Committee is planning. The first one is on Saturday, May 4th at 11 o'clock. There will be a site walk. You can join the Engagement Committee at the maintenance building for that site walk, and you'll get a chance to walk the property where the proposed new school will be. All this information is again on our website. I hope that you can join us for any of the sessions that interest you. And again, I want to thank Doug Breyer and Pat Carroll for being with us tonight and providing this great information. And hopefully you got a lot out of it. So thank you and good evening. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, Pat. I
Yeah,
learn
thank you.
more every time.
Well-
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.